to a basement. If you don't have a basement, an interior room, the lowest level of your home, preferably a closet or a bathroom. Dylan, if we can put a track on this, maybe broaden it out a little bit, because Sharpsburg, Owensville here in Bath County, it's coming your way. So just kind of giving you a heads up. Obviously, this is radar indicated. It has not been confirmed. And you have to remember as well, the radar's on the ground. As the beam gets away from the radar, it gets higher and shoots higher into the storm. So this is a pretty good chunk away or distance away from the radar. So this is some elevated rotation, but some of the communities with this movement, what's it moving at?
40 miles per hour.
So it's moving east at about 40 miles per hour. So that's why the warning for Bourbon and Nicholas only goes for a short period of time, for literally about the next 11 minutes. But the community of Plum is right on top of you now. With its movement, even though Sharpsburg, that's in western Bath County. Now, technically, you're not under the tornado warning, but if you're anywhere there in western and central Bath County, and even northern Montgomery County, I would go ahead and seek shelter just to be on the safe side. If anything, when this thing blows through, you're talking about winds in excess of 60 miles per hour, so wind damage will be possible in addition to the potential of a tornado. Reynoldsville, that's at 2:20. Owensville, which is the county seat of Bath County, that's coming up at about 2:28, so that's roughly about 20-25 minutes from now. It does look like, if you want to wipe that off, Dylan. I don't know if it's kind of in that clutter where the radar image isn't as clear, where you've got that purple. I don't know if you want to switch it over to Jackson.
Yeah, I'm going to switch it over to Jackson now. Now we got my.
Yeah, we're gonna switch radar here, since again that last scan wasn't as clean, and it was right over literally where the rotation is. So you can see what we're dealing with here. You see the green here and the red that are right next to each other in this area, which is just northeast. I think North Middletown's right there along US 460, which runs from Paris down to Mount Sterling in Montgomery County. This warning here, 10 minutes before it's over. Paris and Bourbon County, you're good. It's to your east. But Sharpsburg here, which is in western Bath County, Owensville, north of Mount Sterling, in extreme northern Montgomery County, even though you're not under the warning right now, you want to go ahead and seek shelter, because as mentioned, this is a cutoff. Bourbon and Nicholas counties under Louisville's county warning area, Bath and Montgomery under Jackson.
Yeah, and I will say the Jackson National Weather Service has issued a special weather statement for this, not a tornado warning, saying extending that for Bath and Montgomery County. So a little bit of because it's right on the border between both offices.
And this is what happens sometimes when you get a transition from one National Weather Service office's county responsibility to another. It's, of course, all in the interpretation of the data, but we see here, again, we've got a decent little circulation, and again, it is aloft, because now what we're looking at is, and you see right there, as Dylan mentioned, we've got a severe thunderstorm warning for Bath, Montgomery, and Morgan counties until 2:30. So this goes to the bottom of the hour, and what's going to happen is this is going to move eastward. It's going to go right over Sharpsburg. It's going to be to the north. At least the circulation here is going to be to the north of Mount Sterling, but it's making a beeline for Owensville, and then right there along I-64, and then off to the east, which is out towards Salt Lick. And if you go farther than that, although I think it's going to begin to maybe turn to the southeast a little bit, especially given where the warm front is, and it's going to follow its moisture source, so to speak. So those areas, anywhere, you're under severe thunderstorm warning, but it has a possible tornado warning. A lot of times the Weather Service will do that. They're expecting damaging winds in excess of 60 miles per hour, but they'll put a tornado possible wording with it just to give you an indication that it's possible that we could get a quick spin up of a tornado here. So once it gets out of Bourbon County, then it becomes a severe thunderstorm warning. That's not to say it is any less serious or you should let your guard down at all. And that really goes for anywhere across central or especially southern and southeastern Kentucky, because these storms here that are in the bluegrass and back southwest of Lexington, I want to zoom into that, Dylan, here real quick, and then go back to the reflectivity, and let's kind of reset and see what all we've got going on and how those other storms are doing. But, okay, so this is kind of some embedded circulation within this line of storms as it works into northern Montgomery, western Bath County. So the leading edge of this, as it moves through, it's probably right on Sharpsburg right now. This is going to have the potential of upwards of 60-mile-per-hour winds. As it moves out of Bourbon County, the tornado warning, that'll go away here in about 6 or 7 minutes. You've just got some heavy rain, especially just south of Paris. And switching back over to the velocity data, that is, if we can show you where the circulation is. Now, it doesn't appear with this latest scan to be maybe as tight. It seems to be a lot more broad. And that's generally what happens with these types of scenarios. These things will tighten up real quick, strong enough or tight enough to maybe drop a lower end tornado, EF0, EF1, over a brief period, short period of time, doesn't affect a lot of area, and then it will not be as strong and then kind of go by the wayside. And I think that's probably one of the reasons these things have a tendency to cycle. So, all right. That tornado warning is going to issue here in about 5 minutes, and we've got the ongoing severe thunderstorm warning, Bath, Montgomery, and it even stretches all the way out into parts of just parts of Morgan County, just barely. That's kind of an interesting severe thunderstorm warning polygon. So let's switch it back over to the reflectivity, and I kind of want to broaden things out and see what's cooking with the other storms that we've got. So here in Lexington proper, north side of Lexington, you're into just some heavier rain right now. We've got this cell that's right along the Jessamine and Madison County line, and it looks like the cell that prompted the tornado warning for parts of Nelson into Marion and Washington County, that has about outrun.
Yeah, they're going to expire that warning when it times out.
Yeah, the expiration on the tornado warning here into parts of southwestern Washington County and northwestern Marion County, it's done in about 5 minutes, and they are going to allow that to expire. So I think it's another situation where within these squall line, this kind of broken squall line of storms that's working through the bluegrass right now, you're going to get some circulation. You're going to get some rotation. That's what happens when you have a wave of low pressure and a warm front. That's why we talked about the isolated tornado threat being a little bit higher than it has been with the last few events. So we'll see these things spin up and then kind of spin down. But the other part of it that we got to watch are these little individual cells that we've got popping out here into southeastern Kentucky. This area is very warm in the low 80s. It's very, very muggy. Dew points are in the upper 60s to around 70, which is what we get in the summer. And with the sun being out a lot of the afternoon, that has allowed plenty of instability. Again, instability allows those air parcels to rise easily and freely, and we really can get those storms going because they are south of the warm front and you got a low spinning in from the west. So that's going to help with the potential. And especially when they're out on their own, they can feed off of the entire environment around them. They're not embedded within a line of storms like what we've got back here to the northwest. So these are cells that we're going to keep an eye on as we go through the remainder of the afternoon. So considering the tornado warnings are going to be allowed to expire, we've still got the severe thunderstorm warnings. Our crawl system is now up and running, and we will get that up and keep you updated. Here in Lexington, we're fine other than some heavier rain, which is moving through as we speak. Richmond, you're going to see a heavier cell, and obviously the severe thunderstorm warning that's going to impact Owensville, and then eventually over towards Salt Lick, Moorhead, maybe diving off to the southeast a little bit there toward West Liberty a little later on. And then we'll have to keep an eye on things, folks in Danville, Harrodsburg, down toward Liberty, over toward Stanford as well in Lincoln County. That is headed your way. So we're going to send you back to regular programming. Of course, we'll have all the latest on Good Afternoon Kentucky coming up at 3 o'clock in about 45 minutes. If we get any other tornado warnings before then, we'll cut back in, stay with them until we get those to expire, or we don't see that rotation that we have been seeing over the last little while. So for meteorologist Dylan Goday and meteorologist Jordan Smith, I'm Chief Meteorologist T.G. Shuck. We'll see you in a bit. Well, welcome back. I'm Chief Meteorologist T.G. Shuck in the ABC 36 Storm Team Weather Center, along with meteorologist Dylan Goday and Jordan Smith, tracking severe weather that is moving across central Kentucky as we speak. Told you just a couple of minutes ago that we obviously would pop back in if needed be, and we do, because we now have a tornado warning for parts of Boyle, Casey, and Marion until 2:45. So that's for about another half hour. And what this is, and we talked about it just a little while ago, this is that part of the cell that prompted the tornado warning back in the parts of Nelson County, Marion, and Washington County, and it's probably spiked up again. So it's right over Lebanon, that is, in Marion County, running right along US 68 over toward Gravel Switch. Let's flip over to the velocity data, and of course, this gives us an idea of what the winds are doing relative to the radar site. So what we look for are the difference in colors here, and it's fairly well defined, especially the brighter pink. That's an indication. The brighter that shading is of pink when you're dealing with the red, that's usually a good indication that we've got some stronger winds aloft. Now, remember, the radar site is this is
Louisville's radar.
This is out of Louisville, so the radar site is off to the north and northwest. So what we're looking for here, and if we can zoom in just a little bit more on that, Dylan, and then that way we can show some of the communities going to be impacted here shortly. What you look for is you look for anything in red, or in this particular case, pink and nearly white. That's on the high end of the scale. Anything going away from the radar, which is up here, right next to anything here in the darker color, which is going toward the radar. So you got the winds going two different directions. That is your rotation signature right there. So this is basically between Lebanon and Pinnock across the east central part of Marion County, right over US 68. So if you're in Pinnock there in eastern Marion County, if you're in Gravel Switch, which is eastern Marion County, right butting up right next to parts of right into Boyle County there, in Perryville here in western Boyle County, it's kind of headed your way. I'm assuming, Dylan, it's probably east at what, 40, 45?
It's at 35,
no,
actually.
It's at 35.
A little slower than the other.
A little slower than what we had before. So
let me put a track on there.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and put a track on it. Again, this goes until 2:45. So right now we're at coming up at about 2:20. So this is going to go for about another 25 minutes. It's moving east at 30 to 35. So if you're in eastern sections of Marion County, if you're in western Boyle County, you need to take cover now, go to a basement. If you don't have a basement, an interior room, the lowest level of your home. Pinnock, it's literally right on top of you right now. And what we're going to see this afternoon is these things will cycle within the line of storms. We get those notches, they bow out a little bit, and we can get a quick spin up of a low-end tornado generally. Most of the times these are EF0s, EF1s. It's not a high tornado environment today, but nevertheless, we told you starting yesterday that there was a possibility of this scenario playing out. But down the line here, Gravel Switch, about 8 minutes for you, and then areas east of that, looks like Butchertown, which I think is in the extreme northern part of Casey County there, and then the southern part of Boyle County here. With the eastward movement, it's probably going to, because Danville's up here, back behind the box there with the tornado warning, it looks like it will stay south of you, but anywhere within this red box here, Bradfordsville, you're right on the line, but obviously Gravel Switch, I think it's close to, if you can kill that off of there, Dylan, the storm track. I want to see some of the other cities there, especially into the western part of Boyle County. I mentioned Perryville. Let's see here, go down a little bit. Perryville's farther north. So it's really Brumfield and then Wilsonville, Forkland. Those are some of the areas that are in southwestern Boyle County that this cell, potentially tornadic, gravel switch, of course, right along the Marion-Boyle County line. These are some of the areas where you need to be in your safe shelter. This is why during the spring we talk about having your severe weather safety plan. This is the time to utilize it. It definitely, you know, it's got some nice rotation with it. It's relatively tight, but just the fact that we've got the wind showing up almost in white. Now, granted, as I mentioned before, the radar is on the ground, the beam is aloft, so it's probably shooting a few thousand feet tops, usually lower than that. Obviously, closer it is to the radar, the lower it is, but that's definitely some stronger, even straight line winds that could come down and even do the equivalent of EF0, EF1 damage. So that's something to obviously be concerned with. So this thing's moving right down the US 68 corridor. So gravel switch, you're going to be front and center with this. It's right over Pennock, I believe it was, that we had on there just a second ago. Yeah, so it's basically on top of you right now. Gravel switch, Forkland, which is right on the Casey County, Boyle County line, Butchertown, which is in northern Casey County, and then Wilsonville, that's southwestern Boyle as well. So right along State Route 34 here, Brumfield, Forkland, over to Wilsonville, State Route 37, 243 that comes essentially out of gravel switch and then winds down here heading south down toward Liberty in Casey County. This is extreme northern Casey County here. Again, the cell's still back to the west. It's moving east at about 35, so it will be in your area here relatively soon. If we can, still got the severe thunderstorm warning. Again, it's getting to the edge of the severe thunderstorm warning.
Yeah, they have allowed that severe thunderstorm warning to expire. They're just going to continue with the tornado warning.
Yeah, and I think the way it works with the Weather Service, especially with severe thunderstorm warnings, if you get within less than 10 minutes from its expiration date, they typically, or expiration time that is, they will typically let this continue until it expires. In this particular case, better safe than sorry. But what we're watching front and center is this tornado warning here, and it is really for far eastern Marion County, southwestern sections of Boyle County, and extreme northern Casey County. Now, if we broaden things out a little bit, Dylan, you can see Liberty, county seat of Casey County, you're good. You're not in this. Campbellsville, you're not under any kind of a warning. Danville, you're fine. Perryville, I don't think even Perryville is in the, it looks like it may even be just right on the edge there. Yeah, literally the tornado warning polygon is just right on your doorstep, or at least right through the city, but the actual cell, given the trajectory of it, looks like it will pass to the south of you. Junction City, if it continues to move off to the east, although it may begin to turn to the southeast a little bit, because as the full line of storms moves eastward, it's kind of jogging more southeast, even as the individual cells go straight to the east here. So Junction City, the US 127 corridor, the US 150 corridor, this is going to be headed your way, I would suspect here, probably coming up within the next, I'd say 15 to 20 minutes, if not sooner. So let's switch over to the reflectivity while we've got a second here, and see what else is cooking here in the metro area, and also this area of southern Kentucky that has not been worked over. So here in Lexington proper, we've got no issues other than some very, very heavy rain. I'm sure we've got some thunder and lightning in this for sales running out the US 60 corridor there. Of course, a beautiful drive between Versailles and exit 58 there at I-64 at Frankfort. Some torrential rain there. Georgetown running US 460 over to Paris, and then down I-75. Boy, you get across the Clays Ferry Bridge into northern Madison County, and you're really seeing it coming down, and then just north of Paris there along 25. And these are the individual cells that we talked about here. You look there over Clay County. just to the east of Manchester. Got some thunder and lightning in that. These are the cells that we're really going to have to watch as this line approaches. This area has not been worked over. It is very warm. It is unstable because there's been full sunshine all morning and now into the afternoon, and that is going to allow these isolated cells to really flare up and fire up. A lot of dew point. Temperatures higher, so a lot of moisture, upper 60s to around 70. So you put all those factors together with the warm front lane to the north, area of low pressure spinning in from the south, and that's the classic setup for some straight line wind damage. The heavy rain threat clearly with the intensity of some of these cells and your occasional spin up of a tornado. So really the concentration right now is for this tornado warning that goes until 2:45. The leading edge of this, even though it's kind of embedded, the rotation is, it's right on gravel switch right now, just about to move out of eastern Marion County into far southwestern Boyle and extreme northern Casey County. A bunch of Casey County is not in this. So you may be here in Casey County and thinking Liberty, this is well to your north. Not to say that the remainder of this line, which stretches from central, the bluegrass region all the way down kind of into southwestern Kentucky, it is going to move through as the main surface cold front does as well.
And I will say that the warning for this tornado warning, the wording from the National Weather Service says a severe squall line capable of producing both tornadoes and extensive straight line wind damage, which is what we saw when we're looking at velocity there, when those brighter colors showing up. That would signify some very strong wind gust potential.
Yeah, and that was my concern when we first saw the velocity data, in addition to the potential the circulation here, and notice how it doesn't appear to be as tight as it was, but just the fact that we've got the brighter color within the red, that is showing some very, very strong winds aloft, probably anywhere between 1,500, 2,000 feet, maybe a little higher than that. So it's just off the deck, and with this type of setup, it does not take much to get those to rush out of the front end of that thunderstorm and do some widespread wind damage, straight line wind damage, which many times, and that's one of the reasons that the Weather Service goes out and does a site survey after these type events move through to determine whether it was generally a low-end tornado or the damage was caused by straight line winds. We had that signature up in Bourbon County that looked good. We had that signature back in Nelson County that looked like it was legitimate on radar, and we got some reports of some damage with that part of the cell. So just because this thing may not be overly tight there between Bradfordsville and Gravel Switch, it's not as distinct. I'm a little bit more concerned about the lighter shaded colors here, indicating some very, very strong winds just off the deck. And eventually those, again, could rush out of the leading edge of the front end of that as it cruises into parts of northern Casey and into the southwestern part of Boyle County. Let's put the reflectivity back on it, Dylan, and I want to show the bigger picture here. You were talking about the squall line, and just because you're not under a warning in any particular case, and if we can lose the auto query there for a second. So this is kind of jagged. Now, we've got some additional warnings up here as far as severe thunderstorm warnings. Don't want to forget about folks just off to the east.
Yeah, they just issued that Lexington, new severe thunderstorm warning for Bath and Rowan County.
If you can stick the query, we'll need to pop that off and on just so we don't overwhelm folks with too much information. So, severe thunderstorm warning, 3:15, Bath County, Owensville. It is right on top of you. That is the county seat. It is hugging I-64 here, right there at the Owensville exit, and then you run down the road a little ways, you hit the Salt Lick exit, and then you cross over into Rowan County. You got Farmer Sharkey here coming up the hill, and then over to Moorhead. Moorhead, it's just basically right up to you. This is a severe thunderstorm warning, but it looks very, very strong.
Tornado possible tag with this.
Speaking of, so here's Salt Lick. I mentioned Salt Lick. It's right over Owensville. There's Moorhead. And again, if you know the interstate in this part of the Commonwealth, Bath into Rowan County, it is headed your way, probably moving eastward at about 35 to 40 miles per hour. Have we checked the velocity data on that?
Yes,
Dylan?
we're getting another severe thunderstorm warning for Madison County, which does include Richmond.
Yeah, if we want to go to that, and maybe you can even pop up the the camera and take a look at that one, although it's facing the wrong way, I know. Now, a couple things just looking at the reflectivity right here. It's severe thunderstorm warning. It does include Richmond, but it looks like it's going to be on the north side of Richmond here, especially if it moves due to the east. But really anywhere in Richmond, even though we've got a severe thunderstorm warning, you want to be inside and in a safe place. We talked about this yesterday. The timing obviously could be much better with it being primary election day here in the Commonwealth, but that's what you get with May primaries. It can be touch and go. It can go either way. We've had some beautiful days, and of course, with it being severe weather season, we can have days like this. Just the fact that that reflectivity almost looks like it's got a little notch to it.
Yeah, and let me try to get to our Richmond camera because you can see the ominous skies in the distance.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if there's any way, I know we generally have our Bluegrass Pace Care Skyview AC camera network with Richmond. We're pointing toward Roy Kidd Stadium and then looking out into the foothills of southern Madison County.
Flipping it around here.
Yeah, Dylan's gonna swing it around if he can. So this is looking, if you know Richmond EKU, there's Roy Kidd Stadium, there's the water tower. This is looking straight to the south. And maybe if you go the other way, that might...
it's taken a second to load.
Yeah, well, of course, that generally is the way it goes. So you see the dorm there, you've got the basketball arena, and then we're looking at campus, and as we swing around here, hopefully it'll allow you to go all the way around. If not, you may have to swing it the other way. So now we are looking back across campus and off to the northwest. This is where that cell is located. Right in here, you can kind of see the lower clouds off to the west. And this is a great shot, especially when you compare it to the radar, because again, a lot of times we put the radar image up and you just see a lot of different bright colors, but nothing says storms, and a picture is worth 1,000 words. And this is a classic example of that, because you see the very, very ominous clouds. This is looking straight across the EKU campus back to the west and the northwest, where that severe thunderstorm warning is. If you want to pop back to the radar just to give some perspective here, and we'll keep an eye on that part of the storm right there, because I think that's where it is most intense.
We have had an extension to the tornado warning there.
All right, so let's hit this real quick, and then we'll jump back up to the other cell, because I want to take a look at that. And I don't know whether Jackson's radar or Louisville's radar is going to be better, since we're kind of in that no man's land. But the new tornado warning, which goes until 3 o'clock, so this will take us to the top of the hour. Good afternoon, Kentucky's supposed to start then, but obviously if we have ongoing tornado warnings, we will be staying with our coverage. So Danville, you are not in the tornado warning polygon with the movement of this storm, which is off to the east at about 35 to 40 miles per hour. Southern Boyle County, Junction City in there, US 150 down to Stanford, US 27, Houstonville in this as well. So Houstonville, Stanford, Junction City in northern and northwestern parts of Lincoln County, southern part of Boyle County, and just that small sliver of northern Casey County. If you're in Liberty, this part of the cell, which is most intense, it is off to your north. So any of these communities I just named, Houstonville, Stanford, Junction City, Lancaster, you're okay. You need to be in your safe place right now. A basement is best. If you don't have a basement, an interior room, lowest level of your home, preferably a closet, bathroom. If you live in a mobile home, hopefully you've got a sturdier structure you can get to nearby. The good news is, with this type of scenario, we got a lot of good lead time, so we got several minutes out ahead of this before it moves through for you to get to a safe place. And it's not just for the potential of the tornado warning. The leading edge of this, you see where it's kind of jagged.
And they've just issued a tornado warning for the Madison County storm as well.
I want to look at that one right now, because we were talking about that.
Yeah, and you can see the lowering on our camera.
Yeah, okay, so let's do the warning here first, and then we'll switch over to the camera, because again, I'd rather show you the camera and maybe even zoom in on it, because our camera is right here, and we're looking back to the northwest. What's the velocity look on this? I mean, you can check Louisville, you can check Jackson.
That's Louisville.
Yeah, Louisville, it's just, we're kind of right on. Okay,
very good rotation.
Very top.
This is your circulation right now. So if you're in Richmond, especially on the north side of Richmond, up toward Red House, which is north of Richmond in northern Madison County, anywhere in this area, Richmond off to the north, out Kentucky 52 heading toward Irvin, north of that, Madison County tornado warning until 3:15. And again, the rotation on this looks pretty good because even though we don't have it on there, anything in red is going away from the radar, which is back here to the east in Jackson. Anything in green or blue is going toward the radar.
Let me throw that picture up because you can see the lowering with our camera.
And
here.
there's a good even CC that's starting to develop on radar as well. It looks like something could be on the ground.
Okay, so here we are in Richmond. This is our Bluegrass Pace Care Skyview HD camera network. We show you these all the time. With our during the course of our newscast, and usually it is fairly tranquil, but you see the lowering of the cloud deck right here. So this is looking off to the northwest, right where that possible circulation is. So again, things are lowering. I don't see anything as far as any kind of circulation, but again, you're looking. You're looking a pretty good distance away. Are we kind of pinpointed on that, Dylan, or do we need to?
Do you want me to move it a little bit?
Well, no, I was going to say, I think we're pointing obviously the right direction, given the lowering of it.
Yes, we are. Let me get a little bit more out ahead of it. But yeah, it was about a minute or two ago, it definitely had that strong lowering taking place there. Well, now it looks a little bit less. And again, it's a couple second delay from when I'm changing the camera to when we're getting a change on that.
And again, the other thing to keep in mind, yes, you got a tornado warning from Richmond up into northern and northeastern Madison County. Even if we don't have the circulation, the winds just a few hundred feet, a few thousand feet off the deck are very, very strong. And many times, and most of the time, when we have these types of setups, you will have those stronger winds rush out ahead of the cell, and as it rolls through, do some straight line wind damage that can even rival that low end tornado. I mean, you can have 70, 80, 90 mile per hour winds here, but it is definitely looking ominous. We're looking across the EKU campus here with our Richmond cam showing
there must be some latency issues because I'm changing the camera. It's just not switching it on our actual monitor.
It's kind of jumping around a little bit. Yeah, and sometimes it will lag a bit, but clearly that's the part of the cell that we really need to watch. And again, this is real time, folks. So we've got a tornado warning out for this cell that is moving across the north central part of Madison County. Richmond, you're in it, especially the north side of Richmond, and then running up toward Red House, all those areas in the tornado warning. If we get a chance and we want to pop back to the radar just to give some perspective, and then we can jump back to the camera if we can. Got that warning to the south, but this is the one that we're looking at. I think you almost probably may want to swing it more off to the north and northeast now. So literally, so if you're on the south side of Richmond, at this point, you look like you're in pretty good shape. It really depends on the radar. You got to understand, the radars are hitting it from two different angles. Louisville's off to the northwest, Jackson's off to the southeast.
I'll flip between the two. So this is, so you get a better look at it, this is Louisville's radar.
So this is Louisville's radar, and it's really on the outer fringe. You're shooting several thousand feet up, and it's going away from the radar site. Now, Dylan's going to flip it to the Jackson radar, which is off to the east. It is a little bit lower, and you see that little bit of an appendage. You can see some inflow here, which is a signature on just the regular reflectivity that shows you the rain. It's not even showing us what the winds are doing, the velocity data, the greens and the reds that we've been showing you, and it almost looks like that we're getting a little bit of an appendage. Now, our camera is right here, roughly about where the N and the D is. We've been looking back here to the northwest, but I think if we kind of swing it around and look off to the north, maybe even northeast, if there's anything going on, it's close enough where we could probably see it. I know those cameras sometimes can get a little bit tricky, and we get a little bit of a lag with trying to move them. But Dylan's working on that right now. In addition to the tornado warning, essentially the same area is under the severe thunderstorm warning. So even beyond the tornado possibility, which runs until 3:15, we do have the possibility of some larger hail and some straight line wind damage. But what's front and center, in addition to we've got the other tornado warning down to the south, we've got severe thunderstorm warning. So here's a quick update, not to forget about you folks into Lincoln County. So we're in southwestern Boyle County and the northern part of Casey County. So Houstonville, Stanford, and Danville, it is yet to move through. You've got until 3 o'clock for the tornado warning here. So Stanford, Houstonville, Junction City, be in your safe spot. That goes until 3 o'clock. I want to go back and concentrate on Richmond here because it is in the, and I see that on the other monitor here. So how you kind of swung it around. Let's look at the velocity data since we haven't checked that in a bit, if we can, and see what we're looking at. So it's a little, yeah, there we go.
There's Jackson, who clearly is going to have a better look at this because it's a little clearer.
So pop in a little bit closer for me if you can. And we don't have a legend on there, which that's just the way it goes. Okay, so just to show you what we're looking at, this is the velocity data. It shows us what the winds are doing relative to the radar site. Keep in mind the radar site is to the east in Jackson. So anything in this light blue or green is going toward the radar site in Jackson. Anything, this spot of red here, which is just north of Hillcrest, this has crossed Interstate 65, or 75, excuse me, and it's up, Red House is up here north of Richmond. It is very close to you. Anything in red is going away. So you get the greens and the reds going opposite direction. That is the classic velocity tornado signature. And if we can, do we have it? Is it?
Yes, we can take that there.
So we're going to take a look at our Bluegrass PayScare Skyview HD camera network, taking a look at Richmond. And that's probably the rain shield there, but the lowering here, it almost looks like a wall cloud trying to form there. So
it looked a lot better around 2-3 minutes ago when it was a little bit further in the distance. But yes,
but this is a cell in question because we're looking north. Of course, we've got the antenna in the way here, but this is our Bluegrass PayScare Skyview HD camera network looking at this tornado warned cell that is moving across the north central part of Madison County. What you see back off to the west there, that's the rain shield, because notice how it's kind of clear just ahead of it. And I think this is the cell in question that is literally behind the tower here. Eventually it'll get away from it. But back here, that's the torrential rain that is kind of following suit. And we were showing you a second ago the reflectivity data. We had that little bit of an inflow. That's a signature and kind of that hook or that appendage look. And that essentially shows you, boy, luck would have it that it's literally right behind where the antenna is kind of blocking it here. Where you see that lowering, even though it's off in the distance, that's probably where our possible tornado is located. I don't know whether you've seen anything. Have you seen anything in the chat? Anything from?
Nothing in the chat. Their emergency manager there in Madison County says they're looking for any reports out of Richmond or nearby areas, so have had no reports yet. But the latest update from the National Weather Service says a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located southwest of Red House near I-75, northwest of Richmond, moving east at 30 miles per hour.
And it has crossed I-75. When we showed you the radar data just 2 minutes ago, it was past I-75, and I've mentioned Red House. That's a smaller community there north of Richmond, and this is on the Eastern Kentucky University campus. You can see some of the campus buildings, and we are looking basically due north and eventually northeast. So you see how it's a little bit lighter, the distinct cloud deck, and now where it's updating. If we got a tornado, folks, this is where it's going to be right here. You look back here and notice how it's not as bright. That's because we've got the rain shield that's directly behind where that circulation is. And it probably, I think, would match up on radar fairly close. But this is good to show you because Many times when we show you the radar, we're jumping all over the place. We got tornado warnings going on here and there. You just see a lot of bright colors, and we try to explain to you what's happening relative to the winds and with the rain and the damaging winds. But as I mentioned, a picture's worth 1,000 words. I don't know if we can we zoom in?
Yeah, trying to zoom
that?
in there, but we just got another update from the National Weather Service. Says storm spotters have reported rotation aloft, but nothing has lowered to the ground yet. So there are spotters on it.
Yeah, so they've got spotters on this, but you know, this is a rarity for us. I've been doing this, you know, in this market more years than I care to admit. It is very rare that we actually get a live look at a thunderstorm cell that is possibly producing a tornado. It is capable of producing tornado, and spotters have seen some rotation, and this is it right here. You see that lowering, how you got your, you know, your flat cloud deck here, you got a little bit of an inflow, and then here's where your possible rotation is. And this is in Richmond, on the east side of Richmond, on the campus of Eastern Kentucky University. You see a few of the university buildings in the foreground. We started looking back to the northwest, and now as this progresses just north of the city of Richmond, it's not far from Red House in northern Madison County, so really northeastern Madison County off to the northeast of Richmond. Obviously, looking at the camera, if you're in the city of Richmond, on the north side, better safe than sorry, but Richmond proper, and of course down toward Berea, this is not impacting you. This warning goes until 3:15, so we've got about another 25 minutes on it. I know the guys are working on trying to get it to zoom in a little bit. It's always when you've got a busy weather day, you got the computers working overtime here, and a lot going on, but you can kind of see right there where it's lowered. So if the spotters are out there and they're a little bit closer than this, if obviously we were closer, you might be able to see a little bit of broad rotation just above the surface here.
I think it might have been knocked out as well with the winds that could be in the
okay,
area,
well,
now we're not even area. So I'm going to head over to velocity.
Yeah, let's go back and take a look. Okay, so let's actually, I want to stay with this one first. Yep. You got to prioritize, unfortunately, folks. I think that's Louisville's, I believe, because usually we get that purple on the outer edge when we're looking at the velocity. But that shows the fact that,
and I'll flip over to Jackson.
Yeah,
now,
the radar is aloft, so it's farther away. But you see here, okay, our camera's right there, and that picture that you were looking at was pointing this direction. So what you were seeing there, that lowering of the cloud deck, that was the possible tornado. And again, spotters have shown some rotation aloft. So the bright color in red and pink there up against the blue and the green, you get those side by side, and that's a pretty good indication. Now, I think with that particular radar in Jackson, you're probably shooting, I don't know, maybe 1,500 feet up into the storm, but we showed you the visual proof with our live camera. Richmond, you're good, you're in the clear. It's really anywhere up here into northeastern parts of Madison County. Northern Estill County, north of Irvin here, north of Kentucky 52, Waco and eastern Madison County, it looks like it's going to pass by just to your north. But anyone that is in this tornado warning polygon here in northeastern, so Union City, it's right on top of it. I mentioned Waco. It's going to be close because it's moving east at about 35, but you jump over to Palmer, to Fox in western Estill County along Kentucky 89. There's Irvin, the county seat. With the movement of this, it's going to take you over into northern Estill County and then eventually points to the east. This thing is probably going to get out of the tornado warning polygon before it expires. It goes until 3:15. We're at 2:50, so we got 25 minutes to get it from here to there. And yet again, it's another one of those scenarios where Madison County is under the responsibility of the National Weather Service in Louisville. Estill County is under the responsibility of the National Weather Service in Jackson. So if the tornado warning is extended into Estill County and points to the east and northeast here, I believe over into Powell County here, Jackson will be doing that. But we've still got a fairly healthy signature on radar. Is that live?
Yeah,
or?
it is live. We got the camera to the pot back, and we've also received some pictures out of Madison County of what looks like a wall cloud, what appears to be a wall cloud.
So
and my friend took that picture. He said it is definitely rotating. He said he can definitely see it rotating.
So we have the tornado warning out for northeastern Madison County. We have not had a confirmed touchdown, but we've had spotters on the ground not far from this cell where it's showing some rotation aloft. Therefore, it doesn't take that much of an effort, especially with the setup that we have out there today, to get this to get to the ground. So what you're looking at here is, this is looking northeast of the city of Richmond. So now we've kind of shifted things around. Before, we were looking northwest. You could see across campus. You could see north. Now we're looking northeast. Here's the Richmond Cemetery in the foreground, but you see the lowering, and it's just right here in this area, right here where the possible tornado is as we look to the northeast. We showed you the radar signature, the velocity signature, the greens and the reds side by side. But it's really the rare occasion that we get the opportunity to show our Bluegrass Pace Care Skyview HD camera network a live camera from Richmond where spotters have confirmed that there is rotation within that particular cell. So I'll be interested to see if we eventually, given some of those reports, even though we haven't had a touchdown yet or anything, you need to be in your safe place in Madison County, whether they extend that off to the east and northeast.
Still nothing from Jackson on that particular cell getting updated. We can.
I'd like to go back and check out the other tornado warning. I don't want to forget about folks down in parts of Lincoln County. So they've trimmed the tornado warning down, and you've still got some rotation. Now, in this particular case, we're looking at Louisville's radar, which is off to the northwest. Reds are away. There we've got the banner up with that, and the greens. It's not overly tight. It's broad and it's aloft, but this has had a history of showing signs that it was capable of producing a tornado. So coming up the top of the hour, it's just confined to Lincoln County. So northern Casey County, you were in the clear, and Boyle County, you're in the clear as well. So,
and the National Weather Service said they may continue this downstream into Garrett County, seeing it with the latest reflectivity has come in.
Absolutely.
Would not be surprised to spin up a brief tornado. That's what words from the National Weather Service.
Caleb, can we take Max 2 so I can show the picture that Jordan just got from one of his colleagues, I believe, who's, chasing, spotting down in Richmond. So here we go. Here's the wall cloud, and this is from Logan Miller down in Richmond. This is a closer view of what we were showing you a little while ago with our live camera. We talked about how, you could see kind of the front edge of it, and then the lighter sky, and then back behind it, you get that rain shield. So clearly, you've got a wall cloud, and the spotters reported to the Weather Service office that there was some rotation with this. So this thing's been spinning just probably a few hundred feet off the ground as it has worked across the north central part of Madison County, thus the tornado warning. And
They have extended that warning now as well.
So they have extended it. So if we can switch back from Max 1 to Max 2, and we're going to carry on with this, and this will definitely take us into Good Afternoon Kentucky as we continue to track these storms, because we've got, in addition to now, a tornado warning for Estill, Lee, and Powell County until 3:30. We still have that cell that is down over parts of Lincoln County. We'll see what they do with that. So
yes, the latest update says it was located near Harris Ferry, or 7 miles northeast of Richmond, moving east at 35 miles per hour.
So there's Richmond. That's about 7 miles northeast. Again, you can kind of see it.
This is Jackson's radar right now.
The greens
between Louisville's.
Okay, so here's a better look at it. You see our bright green, and it just updated our bright green and our pink side by side. Notice the legend here. Anything in red is away from the radar. Anything in green is toward the radar. And I know I've repeated that a number of times, but you look at this thing and it just looks like a bunch of bright colors, and if we don't point it out and explain what you're looking at, then you're going to have no idea. But that's the beauty of Doppler radar. It allows us to look inside the storm and see what the winds are doing relative to the radar, and gives us that signature of where the possible tornado is located, which the rotation of it, and maybe even a funnel cloud. We showed it to you live right here on ABC 36 with our Bluegrass Pace Care Skyview HD camera network down in Richmond, and it is off to the northeast of Richmond now, moving into the northern part of Estill County. Now, Irvin, Ravenna, you're technically in the warning, even though the cell moving eastward at about 35 to 40, it's going to clip northwestern parts of Estill County. It's going to go into the southern part of Powell County, right around Stanton and Clay City. I think it'll stay north of the Mountain Parkway for the time being, but if it continues on this eastward trek, eventually as we get out here into eastern Powell County toward the end of the warning polygon, it will approach the Mountain Parkway, not far from Natural Bridge State Resort Park and the Red River Gorge. So those are some of the areas down the line.
And we'll flip back to Jackson, see if the latest scan there has had a better look. Still not a great look there with that one, I'd say.
And it may be cluttered with some rain or whatever. That's a pretty decent look. Yeah, it's shooting a few thousand feet up, but we've shown you visual evidence, both live camera and pictures of a wall cloud associated with this one. I don't know whether we
put a cone on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's put a storm track to show some of the smaller communities into northern Estill, southern part of Powell County, and then over into, it's just got a little bit of Lee County there, right there. Yeah, right there around Greeley. That's in extreme northern Lee County. So Hargett, Knowlton, Pilot, those are all the small areas basically along the Estill and Powell County line, kind of zigzagging. Folks there in Irvin, if it stays on its current path, it will pass probably on the north side of Irvin, but you don't want to take any chances. So any of these communities that you see here, these small communities, also Irvin, the county seat of Estill County, you want to be in your safe place, go to a basement. If you don't have a basement, go to an interior room, the lowest level of your home, preferably a closet, bathroom. You want to get away from exterior windows and walls. Protect yourself from the potential of flying debris. Now, granted, this type of environment, generally, these are lower end tornadoes, if in fact we do see them develop. And you can't forget about the straight line wind damage. When we talked about this severe possibility today, down the checklist, damaging winds and heavy rain. Damaging winds can even equal that of a lower end tornado sometimes. So even though we've really been concentrating on this cell coming out of northeastern Madison County and running into Estill and eventually into parts of Powell and then maybe even over into Wolf and Lee counties down the line here, we've got other areas that have had severe thunderstorm warnings. And we've still had that tornado warning, which
they've expired that tornado warning for Lincoln County.
So the tornado warning that was ongoing for Lincoln County, they were trimming that down. That's been allowed to expire. They did issue a severe thunderstorm warning for parts of eastern Lincoln, the southern part of Garrett County, Lancaster, you're not in it, and then a small part of southern Madison County, including Berea. Now, they kept Rockcastle County out of it for the time being, but we'll see what materializes. Of course, if you've been watching us here and we've been showing you this velocity data, it's not tight at all. It's very, very broad and it's aloft. But remember, the leading edge of that could potentially create some straight line wind damage. Any of this stuff could.
Do you want to do a radar reset?
Yeah,
we have several severe thunderstorm warnings out there right now.
Yeah, let's take a bird's eye view here. All right, before we zoom in at all, here's what we've got cooking. Here in Lexington, we've just got some very torrential rain. We haven't had any warnings. We're on the northern edge of the risk area. It's this area down here in southeastern Kentucky. This is the part of the state that has had the most warmth, highs in the low 80s, sunshine this morning, which in these types of scenarios you do not want because that adds to the instability and allows that air to rise easily and freely and get these thunderstorms going. And the dew points are high because we've had that warm front that has just arced right up to about the I-64 corridor. We talked yesterday, it was going to be a sharp cutoff and a fine line between where we are under now the enhanced risk and then down to just some general rain, maybe some thunder up here into parts of northern and northeastern Kentucky here. So running from coming out of Lincoln County there over to Mount Vernon. And then you've got a couple of other cells just out of the viewing area. But these down here, let's take a look at those down in southern Kentucky, because this is always a concern when you get these individual cells in that very warm, humid, and unstable environment. They've got nothing blocking their way, the whole atmosphere to feed off of for energy, and any of these could spike up and produce some damaging winds and also produce a potential tornado.
And that's what that Madison County cell now getting into just to the east of Richmond there. That's what that cell was. It was fired up out ahead of the main line.
Of course. And there's a more favorable environment. Jordan, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, that cell in northern Wayne County, southern Pulaski, has been showing a little bit signs of rotation, so watching that one closely. They did have a severe thunderstorm warning on it, but it's currently expired at the moment. So
yeah, so that's what you're going to get, and the timing on this is happening about as we anticipated. We figured it would be mid to late afternoon. Now the good news is, once this leading edge and the frontal boundary, which is just ahead, this activity that's rolling through the bluegrass and then down here through parts of Casey County and then stretching down just north of Lake Cumberland, that's right on the nose of that area of low pressure, and there is a trailing cold front. Once that sweeps across central and into eastern and southeastern Kentucky as we progress through the rest of the afternoon, by the early evening, it may be out of here, and once it is, we're going to be in better shape, because the enhanced risk of severe weather, it's not just for southeastern Kentucky. It extends to a lot of southwestern and southern Virginia, down into East Tennessee and into North Carolina. So these areas off to our east and southeast, they're going to be dealing with it for a bit longer. But we're going to be, and that's one thing Jordan is doing in addition to checking social media and getting some of those storm reports and pictures, he's watching some of these individual cells on our other radar to see if they're showing signs of rotation, while Dylan and I continue to track these possible tornadic cells. This is the one that has been front and center for about the last 45 minutes. Now, we're coming up, well, we're at 3:02, so we've got technically another 15 minutes, but I mentioned this about a half hour ago, that this cell was moving quick enough that it would outrun the tornado warning polygon out of Madison County. So we basically about can sound the all clear. It looks like it's just about to skip the Kentucky River there along the Madison-Estill County line and be out of Madison County, and then you're in the clear as far as this individual cell. Yeah, you're going to have some heavy rain and some thunder and lightning with the main line coming through. But as Dylan mentioned, that was the concern and has been the concern all along. It's these individual cells that are popping just ahead of the main line in that favorable environment. Those are more times than not going to have more likelihood of showing some rotation. And we've still got that, because you see the reds and that little spike of green there, just crossing out of Madison County into extreme northwestern Estill County.
And I will say, looking at the reflectivity, there's likely a hail core that's developing right now with this as well, so I'm going to flip that back on at the moment. But yeah, I would say that it's likely producing some large hail with this as well.
Yeah, and that's the other part of this. Of course, we concentrate on the tornado threat and the damaging wind threat, but isolated large hail definitely on the table. 9 times out of 10 in this kind of scenario, when you see a little pink spike right there, which you are in northwestern parts of Estill County, just on the other side of the Kentucky River out of eastern Madison County, that generally means you're looking at some hail within that cell. So not only do we have the possible rotation that was confirmed when it was just north of Richmond, not only from some pictures, but also on our Bluegrass Pace Care Skyview H2 camera network cam out of Richmond, which again, very rarely do we have the opportunity to show you a live storm as it goes through, but happened to work out that way today. You've just got some moderate to heavy rain through Clay City and Stanton running along the Mountain Parkway, but the really torrential stuff, and again, the cell that has a circulation that's prompted the tornado warning until 3:30 for Estill, Lee, and Powell counties. That is coming into the northwestern part of Estill County. Irvin, yes, you're in the tornado warning polygon, and you need to stay in your safe place just to be on the safe side. But given the trajectory of this cell or the movement of it eastward, I think it's going to clip northern Estill County, cross over into Powell County, probably move just on the south side of Stanton there, and then cross over the Mountain Parkway and head out toward the Red River Gorge and Natural Bridge State Resort Park there in far eastern Powell County.
I want to try to match up the velocity here with the radar so we can kind of get a view of both when you switch between one or the other here, and we will have that for you.
So, in addition to the tornado warning, obviously we've got other things going on, and I don't know, guys in Master Control, if it's possible to put the crawl on. I know that is a little disruptive, especially with our banner. The only issue is where we're staying with these tornado warnings, and we've got a number of other severe thunderstorm warnings around the area. It's just impossible to be able to cover them all in one fell swoop.
Yeah, that's right. And this is that cell we are watching. Again, when you flip between velocity and the actual radar itself, you can see that that would be the rotation just to the north of there of Irvin. And it is moving east at around 35 miles per hour. So not as fast as I think we were expecting these storms to go. But you can see just to the north of that, there's the hail core on the northern side of this storm. Meanwhile, if there is a tornado being produced, it would be south of where you are dealing with that hail. But you can see really in the last couple of scans of the radar, the hail core's really intensified a bit there.
So it's that right there, right?
Yeah.
Right there where you see that pink.
That darker pink, the darker purple, and the darker red there would signify extremely heavy rainfall and the threat of some hail on the northern side of that. But if there's any rotation that would produce a tornado, it would be not within that hail core. It would be just to the south of that with the way this supercell, I mean, this is a supercell, the way it's developed here and moved through the area. So again, we're in a really bad spot for radar coverage at the moment. But
yeah, that's Jackson's.
Any rotation would be where you're seeing those reds and the greens coming together there. And we're still seeing some very strong wind gusts, likely with the downdraft of this storm as well, where we're seeing that heavier rainfall falling. And again,
and it's definitely, obviously, Dylan, not as well defined as it was just a few minutes ago, especially on.
The terrain becomes a lot more disruptive when you get into this area. Where in Madison County, a lot flatter. We had a great look at on our Bluegrass PaceCare Skyview HD camera network. You can see that view. Not seeing it quite as well there, but is that Louisville's radar?
This is Jackson.
This is Jackson. So again, hail on the northern side of this. If there's a tornado, it would be on the southern side of this system. And again, because of the heavy rain, especially if you're on the northern side of this thing, you don't want to be outside looking at the storm because it's going to be rain wrapped. There's heavy rain, which we saw when we were looking at the camera shot in Richmond. This would be on the southern edge of it. There would be where we would be dealing with the rotation, right where Chief Meteorologist T.G. Shuck is putting that storm track on there. So we've got Haggart there at 3:10, so within the next minute and a half. Nothin there at 3:26 and Furnace at 3:27, which is a little bit further towards the east, so it gives you time to get in that safe location. Most interior room within your home, away from any doors, windows. If you have a basement in the interior, maybe below a staircase, something like that would be the best place to be. And because of this difficult terrain there, you're not going to be able to see this. This is difficult. We have spotters that are tracking the storm. This is becoming very difficult to storm spot if anyone's out looking at it. So that's why we recommend getting in that safe location if you're within that polygon at the moment there.
So Jackson just put out an update, and they continue the tornado warning and said it was capable of producing a tornado over Hargett near Irvin, although, I mean, that's near Irvin, but obviously
it'd be to the north and the west of Irvin.
As a crow flies, that's 5 miles away, so it's just up the road. And I mentioned that earlier, that, stay in your safe place, even though I think it's going to pass. There's a little bit of an appendage, but as Jordan pointed out, they're calling for 1.5 inches possible.
Yeah, which is an increase from what it was. It was at 1 inch, so 1.5 inches is much larger hail, and that's what this is showing. And because this is near textbook supercell structure with the way this is developing there.
There's
tornado on the southern side,
there.
hail core right there. Is that the Sprout Springs area? Is what that would be? The Sprout Springs area there.
It's extreme northern Estill County.
Yeah, extreme northern Estill County.
Into Powell County. So
yes.
The heavy rain obviously has come up on the Mountain Parkway there just west of Clay City. So this cell is gonna, it looks like if it keeps going the way it is, it'll impact the south side of Clay City and Stan.
And that's why this part of the storm is still included in the warning, because though the tornado's on the far southern edge of this, you don't want to be out in this heavy rain and hail anyways. So that is why that part of the storm is still included. And have they extended this warning eastward now? It appears they have now.
Here,
or they.
yeah, I think it's
update.
Still. Yeah, they updated it. I don't think they added any. Let me put
the expiration date is still 3/30.
3/30, yeah, for Estill, Lee, and Powell.
And again,
northern Estill.
It's out of Madison County, even though it shows up. Remember, I mentioned earlier with the way the algorithm works with the warning system with the Weather Service, if they cancel a tornado warning less than 10 minutes before its expiration, it won't disappear until its expiration time, which is 4 minutes in Madison County, but clearly you're good.
Yeah. So again, to reset things here, if there's a tornado with this cell, it is in about 5 miles. We just showed you 5 miles as the crow flies north and west of Estill, just to the east of the Fox area there. And that is moving off towards the due east. And again, doesn't have great structure to it in terms of velocity because it's just in a bad location to look at from a radar. This is Jackson's radar or from Louisville's radar, which is obviously much further away from the system. Than we are dealing with, and still several severe thunderstorm warnings also included.
Yeah, they just kicked this one out for Jackson County and Rockcastle until 4.
Jackson County and Rockcastle County through 4. This is the storm we're watching. Some rotation earlier on with this as it was much further towards the west in Lincoln County, Casey County there. No longer dealing with the rotation, but you can almost see it becoming that C shape right there. That would show some very strong wind gusts within that cell as it is pushing off towards the east. Still have some severe thunderstorm warnings on the southern side of this for Casey and Russell County, and that is through 2:30 Central, so 3:30 Eastern time there.
And let's see if there's anything. Yeah, see, and also, Dylan, what they're doing is the Weather Service in Louisville, they are trimming counties already from the severe thunderstorm watch. So here in the Bluegrass, Lexington, we're good. I think as we go through the remainder of the afternoon, the area of concern is going to be southern and southeastern Kentucky, as it was all along. This thing kind of overachieved in the sense that back toward E-Town, back toward Bardstown as well, that was kind of in that low end, level 1, marginal to slight, and we really expected the bulk of it to be in the area that has had all the sun earlier today, highs in the low 80s, dew points upper 60s to around 70, plenty of instability, which again allows that air to rise freely and easily. And you've seen the end result, a number of tornado warnings across the area. So, and Dylan may be right relative to the terrain issue, because obviously when you get in the mountains, unless it's something very unusual like it was on March 2nd, 2012, when those were textbook signatures. Just the fact that we've got that little appendage here on the reflectivity, I still think we at least have some broad rotation about 5-6 miles off to the northwest of Urban and Ravenna there. I put the ruler on it a minute ago when the Weather Service updated it. So they're going to carry this thing until the bottom of the hour. And what Dylan was popping on, he was popping on the hail core history. Is that right?
Yeah, core history, just over an inch in size.
So inch plus diameter hail, and in fact, when the Weather Service updated the tornado warning for Estill, Lee, and Powell County until 3:30, they mentioned 1.5 inches hail. Again, 9 times out of 10, if you've got a good solid hail core on radar, it is going to appear high on the reflectivity, because obviously it's ice aloft and that has a higher reflectivity, kind of like when you're dealing with sleet in the winter. So right along the Estill and Powell County line, so we're crossing over at extreme northern Estill into far southwestern, or really western Powell County. There's Stanton. Clay City obviously is just back to the northwest. Mountain Parkway runs right along this. So it's interesting. You got the little appendage down here where the circulation could be, but then suddenly that part of the cell becoming more concerned with large hail when it comes to areas, say on the south side of Stanton and southern Powell County, and then even over toward, if it keeps on that eastward track, the Red River Gorge area and Natural Bridge State Resort Park here in far eastern Powell County. So
yeah, we haven't seen hail signature this impressive in a while.
Yeah,
this is pretty impressive to see hail potentially that large.
Exactly, and this is classic spring in Kentucky. I mean, we talked the other day that other than that overnight event that we had March into no April Fool's Day, it was April 1st. We really haven't had a lot as far as organized severe weather, but today it is definitely front and center. So we've been on now for quite a while now. I think we went on at about 1:45, so we broke for a couple of minutes when we had a lull in the tornado warnings. And obviously that's what's going to happen. Now we're going to see what the Weather Service ends up doing with this here, but if the tornado warning is canceled early and none others are issued, then we'll start Good Afternoon Kentucky and go from there. But we're going to stick with this because this thing has had a history, again, of producing rotation. If you've been with us for a while, we were actually able to show you that on our Bluegrass Pace Care Skyview HD camera network out of Richmond. You could see the lowering. You could see what appeared to be a wall cloud. We had a picture from Richmond closer to that cell, and it was pretty easy to pick out where that possible rotation was. Spotter did report rotation and basically a funnel cloud, although it never reached the ground.
The National Weather Service in Jackson just said they think it's splitting now. The cell is splitting based on the environment, based on photographs and things like that with their forecast. So the cell could be splitting apart. This, you know, maybe why we're seeing that hail core start to fire up.
Yeah, absolutely, because you see on the reflectivity, we're kind of weakening things out here, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why we lost the velocity signature a little while ago. But now the concern becomes the larger hail that I think we're getting here just off to the southwest of Stanton, just south of the Mountain Parkway. Really the heavier rain here, you're kind of catching it into Clay City, and you may even see some hail there. I'll be interested to see when we start getting a few reports. Jordan's working social media and checking Twitter and the storm reports from the National Weather Service.
Yeah, they just updated the warning here, and it says that it's still continuing it through 3:30, 1.5 inches, which is ping pong ball size hail, was located near the Hardwick or near Irvin, moving east at 40 miles per hour. So still the same wording as it was last time. It's to the north of Irvin.
Yeah, the cell is probably about 2 or 3 miles up the road from downtown Irvin. It's just, you know, you can take that back road to get over to the Mountain Parkway out of Irvin that zigzags through that southwestern part of Powell County. Been on it a few times running up towards Stanton, and you can catch the Mountain Parkway there as well. But this is moving into Stanton, so I really think if you're in Stanton proper, just to be on the safe side, if you've got a garage and it's open and your car's outside, might want to get it in. Again, just to be on the safe side, if we're seeing the potential of upwards of 1 inch, 1.5 inch hail, especially upwards of ping pong size hail, that can obviously create a few issues.
Latest couple scans are not showing that intense core that we were seeing previously. I was just going to say, when it sweeps by, you can see it a little bit, but notice how it's red and it's not pink. The pink is generally that signature for large hail, which, you know, I mean, if you've been watching anything with the weather in other parts of the country, they've had a number of hail events out in the Central Plains over the last few weeks. Now, it's nothing of that magnitude, but man, oh man, you know, we pay all the attention, obviously, to the tornado, the straight line wind, the flooding, but hail can really, really cause some issues. If you were around, it's been nearly 20 years ago, in early June in 2005, we had a hail event here in Lexington right at the rush hour during the week at 5 o'clock, and for about the next 6 months here in Lexington, you could drive anywhere and hear hammering on rooftops from so many roofs being damaged by that. So, not saying that this is the scenario, but you can't underestimate the potential for large hail in this kind of scenario. So we're hanging on to the tornado warning here until the bottom of the hour. You got heavy, heavy rain now. Folks that are coming, say, from out of Camden, Wolfe County, heading back
to the west and the northwest running through Powell County along the Mountain Parkway, it's going to be either pull off or wipers on high. And you got to watch for ponding of water on the roadway. You want to slow down. If you don't have to go out, obviously don't, because this is going to be producing some very, very torrential rain. Dylan, I want to do a little broader view on things. And also I want to, if we can, if you can click around on my show, just check temperatures and dew points and see what we're dealing with. We got a few of those individual cells. In fact, you see down here, it looks like...
My bad.
No, you're fine. We got severe thunderstorm warning. I was just pointing that out. All right, you can see what's happening here and why this area of southern and southeast Kentucky is primed for this severe weather threat to continue until we get the passage of that low and the cold front later on in the afternoon. It's 64 in Frankfort. It's 67 here in Lexington, yet it's 79 in Richmond. And look at London and Somerset and Williamsburg and Hazard, areas that have not seen any rain. You've had a lot of sunshine this morning. Now, what about the dew points? If you can click to the next one. All right, 70 dew point in Somerset, 65 in London, 68 in Monticello. We talk about the dew points all the time in the spring and the summer. Great measure of the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. Anytime you get in the upper 60s to around 70, it feels like your summer muggy. So there's a lot of available moisture. There's a lot of available warmth in the sun. Not a good thing on a day like today. That just stirs the atmosphere and creates more instability. And that's why, even though we may be seeing a little bit of a lull, let's keep our fingers crossed that the majority of these are severe thunderstorm warnings if we see them at all. But that's something we're going to have to be dealing with. Now, if we can pop back to the radar and kind of broaden it out a little bit, I want to hit on a couple of those little individual cells while we play this thing out. Looks like a new severe thunderstorm warning just came out for Pulaski County over into western and northern Laurel County. I just saw that pop up. It hasn't hit the queue here, but and this is for the leading edge of this squall line here that has been working its way across central and now moving into south central and southern Kentucky. So severe thunderstorm warning until 4 o'clock, Laurel, Pulaski County, Jackson County, Rockcastle County, severe thunderstorm warning. Anywhere along this line here, a couple things can happen. You get damaging winds in excess of 60 miles per hour, and just given the environment, you can get these little notches here or there, and you can have what we've been having much of the afternoon, the potential of an isolated tornado spinning up. Generally low end, but remember that our straight line wind damage can also produce winds of a low end tornado as well. So you need to definitely take these warnings seriously. The cells that we really have to keep an eye on, I mentioned this one where it's about to move out of eastern Harlan County, I think. It's going to scoot over into Wise County there in southwest Virginia over toward Big Stone Gap. It's right along US 119, Cumberland southward. It's those individual cells, like there's even a little appendage there. That's going to be out, basically out of the state soon. Jump back a little broader, Dylan. It's these individual cells right here, the one right near the radar site in Jackson, the one that is along the Jackson County and Clay County line. These are the cells that can really become problematic. They're out on their own, and they're just out ahead of the main line of storms, and that's what we saw with the Richmond storm. It was an individual cell that developed right on the nose of that squall line, and it spun up a little tornado. So McKee, you've still got the main stuff coming to you, but we've got this isolated action, Boonville and Owsley County, right along the Clay and Jackson County line. Along 421, there's a little community called Egypt right there. Kid you not, southern part of Jackson County, right along 421 that'll run you down to Manchester where you can catch the Hal Rogers Parkway. But that cell, that's what we got to watch. And another one here along the Lee and Breathitt County line. All these individual cells have the potential of doing what this one has as well, because the main line's back here, but this one is still out on its own. The hail core's gone because we don't see that pink anymore, but we still have that appendage on the reflectivity, not even showing the velocity data. Now, we haven't checked that in a while. And I think the other issue that we may be running into, Dylan, is the fact that, look at the radar site here in Jackson. it is covered with heavy rain and thunderstorms. So a lot of that activity may be impacting the intensity and its ability to get a good bird's eye view of what's going on with that fairly healthy cell sitting right over the radar site there off to the northeast of Jackson.
Obviously there's not a hole where the radar site is.
Yeah,
it's just the angle of the radar that is pushing
correct.
Up, so don't be confused
So,
by that.
and remember, the radar's at the ground, the beam is aloft. So when we're showing you this circulation, unless it's within a few miles of the radar, you're generally shooting anywhere between 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 feet or more. Farther away from the radar it is, farther up you're going, but you don't necessarily have to just have rotation aloft to get it down to the ground. We got awfully close, it looks like, when this thing was coming across Richmond, the north side of Madison County. And this is the same cell that did that. So this thing's been hanging, it's been holding its own.
And we did get a hail report out of northwestern Estill County.
So right up in
Harris
here.
Ferry Road, penny-sized hail.
Yeah, so it was obviously kicking out a little bit of hail a little bit ago. Switch over to velocity and let's take a look at this thing and see where we are. I mean, it's funny. It almost looks like there's two.
Yeah.
You got a little bit of rotation just on the southwest side of Stanton, and then this may be contaminated. Oh, how about that? Right on cue. Another tornado warning now until 4:15. So given the history of this, we're going to need, and of course, with it being the heart of our viewing area, we're going to stick with this thing as we go through. And they're playing it safe because given
it looks
the
much
hail,
better
and
on Louisville's radar.
And when we popped the velocity up just a minute ago, these things can cycle as well. They can tighten up and then they can kind of go away for a minute and then kind of refire. Keep in mind, you got a southerly to southwesterly flow, so there's nothing south of this storm to not just leave the door wide open to just feed the storm. And so it appears to be wrapping up again. So our signature looks a whole lot better. Literally, the rotation is right along the Powell-Estill County line. Is this Louisville or Jackson?
This is Louisville's radar. Jackson's still got all that disruption, I think, because the storm's basically right on top of it right
and it's contaminated because there's a storm right over the radar, but it's still picking it up.
Yeah.
And I think once the cell here over the radar in Jackson clears, we're going to get a whole lot better look at it, because I think as a crow flies, that can't be any more than maybe, I don't know, 1,500 feet tops.
Yeah.
Shooting up into that storm.
And I just want to show this too, because once you set this in motion for this cell, you can really see what kind of cycle it went through here, where it went from that one little appendage we were seeing to it kind of tightened back up in the last couple stands.
Back it back up a little bit again to where it was in Madison County. Just on the reflectivity, you see the appendage, and then when it gets to the border, it kind of goes away, and then we shift our focus to the hail core. Now the focus is back on the potential for the tornado. So Breathitt County, parts of Estill County, Powell, and Wolfe until 4:15. So essentially, much of Wolfe County, Campton included, small part of Lee County here, Beattyville, you're good. Far eastern Estill County, Irvin, you're in the clear as far as the tornado threat. And then Powell County. This thing is making a beeline with its eastward trek toward Natural Bridge State Resort Park there in eastern Powell County and the Red River Gorge area, which bleeds over into western Wolfe County. So we're going to hang with this thing because, again, it is cycling back up, it appears, and this basic supercell, because it's out on its own, has had a history of producing rotation, confirmed rotation, funnel clouds back around Richmond. And even though we're getting into the mountainous area, we've seen obviously in the past that it can cause some problems. So we're moving south, a little more southeast now.
Yep. I'd say going right along with where that radar where they oriented the warning to us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I noticed it was a little bit, it's been trending that way because we were going kind of due east, and we talked about how the entire squall line was moving southeast while the individual cells moved to the east. But now everything is beginning, especially these individual cells, they're beginning to take more of a southeasterly turn. So some of the communities here, the community of Pilot, which is not far from where that cell is, it looks like that's just right into Powell County. It's just on the border there with Estill and Powell County. Zoe, I think, there in northern Lee County. And then Campton, of course, the county seat of Wolfe County, that's at 3:54. So you got about 25 minutes. Hurst, which is along the Wolfe-Breathitt County line, that's 4:01. And then it'll eventually be working farther east. So this thing has held its own because it really got wrapped up west and northwest of Richmond. So it's been going on for a good solid hour now.
Also like to point out that the storm that is just north of Manchester has a tornado possible tag on it. It's severe thunderstorm warning, but they're monitoring it for rotation.
Let's take a look at that one, Dylan, if you want to go down to the south here.
Yep.
And check that one out. So don't forget, we've got Mount Vernon into western Jackson County coming up, top of the hour, severe thunderstorm warning. Don't want to forget about you folks in Pulaski County and western Laurel County. You got a severe thunderstorm warning until 4 o'clock, but the cell that we're keeping an eye on, and here's what Jordan was talking about. Again, we got all those storms around the radar site in Jackson. This is our closest view, but you can see a little bit of red and green side by side, and that is your signature. So the Weather Service will do this many times. They'll put a tornado warning or tornado possible wording onto the severe thunderstorm warning when they're seeing some broader rotation, and that's what they're seeing here. Because you see Jackson, and you can kind of see there's a radar site right there, and the sweep's about to come around. So
yeah, they did tag this with a considerable severe thunderstorm warning, so 70-mile-per-hour wind
yeah.
gusts.
So what's the reflectivity look like on that? Switch back over, and we mentioned these individual cells out on their own, but for the possibility of tornadoes, but you can also get some big-time wind with them. And here you go. Individual cell out on its own, broad rotation, and just because it's not part of the squall line does not mean it does not have the capability of producing, as Dylan said, upwards of 70-mile-per-hour winds. So Oneida there in northern Clay County, Burning Springs, you're going to see some activity. Of course, Annville there in southern Jackson County along US 421 west of you. You just got some stuff in the area, but the cell that we're concerned with looks like it's going to clip extreme southern part. I think that's Owsley County there, yes. As it moves eastward, and then eventually get into far western Perry County here. Yeah, I was going to say that we don't even have on the queue. Yeah. It's picking up the other ones. It's not.
And it's shaped really awkwardly as well. It's not typical.
So this warning here includes northern Clay, southern parts of Owsley County, southern Breathitt, western Perry, and northern Leslie County.
Yeah, and this one here as well with this, you kind of see the bow echo there for Estill, Jackson, Lee, and Owsley.
Yeah, right where this is jutting out north of McKee across the northern part of Jackson County. That leading edge right there, you could probably see 60, 70-mile-per-hour winds. I mean, it will blow through very quickly. And remember, with the straight line wind damage, that's why the Weather Service goes out and does site surveys when damage is reported after days like today, because they have to determine based on a set of parameters whether it was straight line wind damage or, usually in this case, a low-end tornado. So just because you're not under a tornado warning and you're only under a severe thunderstorm warning, which if Dylan zooms out, you see we got a fistful of them across the area. That one about to move out of parts of Harlan and Letcher County.
Yeah, and the southern edge of that kind of what's going through Rockcastle, Jackson County area right now, it just got a considerable tag as well, so 70-mile-per-hour winds.
See, you can see that bowing out right there. Notice what it's doing is it's getting a little push back behind it and bowing it out. So that's why it's jutting out there north of McKee, and then you see it kind of snaking down into literally east of Mount Vernon, a lot of eastern and southern Rockcastle County. Just torrential rain. Not a fun drive along I-75 around Livingston. Ironically, nothing in northern Laurel County yet. It will be on top of you soon. But I would say north of McKee here, this part of it right here, that's going to possibly produce some wind damage. And the ironic thing, I was going to say, it looks like it's about to outrun the severe thunderstorm warning box, but no, there it is. That goes until 4:15.
There's a lot of warnings right next to each other.
And they're overlapping each other as well. So this cell here along the Owsley-Clay County line, again, it's a severe thunderstorm warning heading over toward Buckhorn Lake State Park with that east to southeast movement into western Perry County. That has some broad rotation with it. And you notice how it is not too far from the radar, so that beam is not shooting too far up. And then we still have the tornado warning. Let's go back and revisit
and we're getting some reports from the National Weather Service, some damage reports. One out of the gravel switch area in Marion County.
That was the cell back into Marion County. It's right on the Marion-Boyle County line that we were tracking.
And that Lincoln County, same cell there with tree and power line down on Danville Avenue between Portman Avenue and Maxwell Street. So that's the cell from earlier.
So that's the kind of thing that you're going to see as we progress probably over the next, maybe 2-3 hours or more, I think, into the early evening. Now, just looking at the reflectivity signature here, you see the little hook, the little appendage here, right along the Estill and Powell County line. It is now east of Stanton. This is the area, like the leading edge of this is about to cruise right over Natural Bridge State Resort Park and then eventually move into western Wolfe County, and that is where a lot of the Red River Gorge is located. But that little appendage right there, take a look at the velocity and see if it's
I can flip it with
better.
the same camera view right on top of that, so we can get a look at velocity there. So there's what it looks like. 1 second, we can get them lined up. And there's what it looks like on the radar itself, reflectivity there, and that is what it looks like on velocity. Again, not a great signature there. Let me switch over to the Louisville radar and get a better idea.
So that's a better look. Greens and reds, we've said it many times, it's an explanation as opposed to just looking like a Christmas tree and wondering what you're looking at. This is the velocity data, beauty of Doppler radar. Let you look inside the storm and see what the winds are doing relative to the radar site, which in this case is back to the west. You see the legend up here. Anything in red is going away. Anything in green is going toward. You get those side by side, that's a rotation signature. Doesn't matter whether it's at ground level or aloft. Obviously, with the updraft, it's rotating updraft, and it can make it to the ground, and we've been awfully close. Ironically, with this particular cell, when it was back over Madison County a little while ago, we showed you pictures, and we were able to show you on our Bluegrass Pace Care Skyview HD Camera Network camera out of Richmond and EKU. We showed you as it passed just north of the city, started in the northwest and eventually moved to the northeast. You can see the lowering of that and nearly made it to the ground, but so far haven't seen anything like that. But there's your circulation. Stanton, Clay City, you're good. This thing's sitting right over Natural Bridge State.
They just trimmed out the warning too.
What's that?
They just trimmed the warning out
they
so you can
trimmed
see
it
a better
back.
idea.
So Stanton, Clay City, Powell County, you're good. Much of Estill County, you're in good shape. And I really think, even though we've got a small part of Lee County in this and then down into parts of Breathitt County, it's going to be eastern Powell County and then into Wolfe County. So essentially, the circulation is right there at the Natural Bridge State Resort Park exit on the Mountain Parkway. There's Slade, so I mean, literally, it's almost right over top of where the resort park is. And then you run up the hill here and cross over into the western part of Wolfe County as you climb that big hill on the Mountain Parkway and cross over into Wolfe County. This thing's going to slide right across it, and with its east to southeast movement, it's heading right toward the city of Campton, the county seat of Wolfe County. But this warning that goes until 4:15. So if you're in Wolfe County, really anywhere in Wolfe County, because it's not in Wolfe County yet, it's about to cross the border out of Powell County into your area. Go to a basement, you know the safety rules. If you don't have a basement, an interior room, the lowest level of your home, preferably a closet, a bathroom, you want to get yourself away from exterior windows and walls. And even if you're under a severe thunderstorm warning, same drill. You want to be inside. Don't want to be by exterior windows or walls, because any of these storms, especially with the squall line moving through and the individual cells, have the potential of producing some straight line wind damage. And we have seen that already. We had the cells that prompted the first initial tornado warnings that we had back into parts of Marion County and Washington County, and then running over to Boyle and Lincoln County. And that was, oh gosh, about 2 o'clock, over an hour and a half ago, and we just got some damage reports.
And we did get a damage report out of Madison County as well from that same storm when it pushed through.
Which is this one.
Yes, which is that one near the Red House area, 1 mile south-southwest. For the fire department, reports a tree down on Red House Road, so from that same cell.
So even if that funnel or rotation didn't manage to reach the ground, there were strong enough winds to do some tree damage there. We mentioned Red House a number of times as it was going across northern Madison County when they were under that under that tornado warning between about 2:50 and 3:15, even though it was long gone by then. So that's kind of the moral of the story, and that's one of the reasons that we stay with these tornado warnings. Yeah, they're out in more rural areas, but in this particular case, you've got Campton, which is the county seat of Wolfe County. You've got the Mountain Parkway that runs right through the heart of Powell County and Wolfe County and points eastward. Very heavily traveled, of course, a main thoroughfare to get you from the Bluegrass out into eastern Kentucky, and you've got a potential tornadic thunderstorm cell rolling right over top of that right now.
I'm gonna flip back to reflectivity because I think it just has a better look at the regular radar of this system, because it's still not getting a great look from that Jackson radar in terms of seeing their
and I still think you're getting a little contamination, because you see the radome down here just northwest of Jackson, and it's got some heavier rain and storms in the area, and that almost kind of blocks. Yeah, it can punch through it, but sometimes it can contaminate the view that you get of some of these cells, especially when you're trying to get down in the weeds with them. So till 4:15 here, still have the ongoing tornado warning. We still have that notch, a little bit of an inflow, it looks like, right around Natural Bridge State Resort Park, and then the heavy rain has spread into parts of the Red River Gorge as we get into western Wolfe County, and this is going to continue to move eastward here. So
yeah, so Campton, I mean, you're going to be just kind of right in between the heavy rain and where we could see, some rotation as well.
Yeah, it's going to be close, and again, anywhere in Wolfe County, just be in your safe place.
Yep.
Always better safe than sorry, because even if you don't see a tornado, when this thing comes rolling through, you're going to have winds in excess of 55, 60 miles per hour or greater. And with this type of scenario today, and that's why they'll do site surveys, probably a number of them, where we have damage reports today, because it needs to be determined whether we had a low-end tornado or just straight line wind damage. So just because you're not under a tornado warning does not mean that you may not get some wind damage. Even if you are under a tornado warning like you are here in Wolfe County, you need to be inside in your safe place. Campton front and center, Hazel Green, you're probably at least going to get some pretty torrential rain. So the leading edge of this thing, you got Rogers here. That's just right off the Mountain Parkway exit as you make your way toward Campton there. The Mountain Parkway just snaking there west of Campton. So, and then of course 15 branches off, takes you into southern Wolfe County and down toward Jackson, and then the Mountain Parkway as they continue on the construction to expand that to 4 lanes all the way across the board. But just entering the northwestern part there, you can see the Mountain Parkway. It is, and if you've taken that road, you get to the county line there with Wolfe and Powell County, and then you make that long, big, curvy drive down the hill as you're heading back toward the Slade exit, where you get off to go to Natural Bridge. So there's Slade, Natural Bridge is just south of it. There's your circulation. So this is just going to literally pass very, very close to Natural Bridge, and the heaviest rain now is overspreading areas of the Red River Gorge. So not a good time to be out down there at all.
And we're starting to get some power outage reports here. Rockcastle County now over 2,000 customers without power in Rockcastle County with that cell that's to the south.
Yeah, so I'm going to hit a few of these cities here as far as naming them off, and then I want to check the other severe thunderstorm warnings because, again, we got a lot of ground to cover here and don't want to forget about anyone. So Natural Bridge State Resort Park, it's on top of you right now. Slade, you're getting the heaviest rain, the potential for the tornado along Kentucky 11. Kentucky 11, you come off the exit there, and where the Junior Williamson rest stop always was, and you go down Kentucky 11 through Zachariah, and that will weave you down toward Beattyville. But this is the section toward Rogers and along Kentucky 11. That is where the potential rotation is eventually going to move and then cross 15 and head right toward Campton if it stays on that current path. Even if we don't have any rotation, you're going to see some very strong winds. So just, even though you're under a tornado warning anywhere in Wolfe County, just consider yourself under at least a severe thunderstorm warning just based on even some of the winds that you're going to get on the leading edge. So Campton, High Falls, Vortex, ironically, Pine Ridge, and then areas up toward Hazel Green. You got Granny there, just all these small communities in Wolfe County. So from there, we want to broaden things out and show you what's happening across southern Kentucky and south central Kentucky, because you see a lot going on, a lot of heavy rain producing thunderstorms, just a fistful of severe thunderstorm warnings. You've got Jackson and Rockcastle going until 4 o'clock. Looks like we got a new one here for Whitley County, parts of southern Laurel County, and into Knox County.
It's a tornado possible tag as well.
And there's a tornado possible tag. And you want to know why? Notice how it's out on its own, and it's just ahead of that leading edge of the jagged squall line that is working across south central Kentucky. So any of these that we see popping out ahead. So Corbin, it is right to your west. Now it looks like it's turning to the southeast a little bit, as, of course, Corbin is in that tri-county area of Whitley, Knox, and Laurel. But I really think the bulk of it is going to be probably more so on the south side of Corbin here. It's going to be north of Williamsburg. You see a little bit of darkening there with the green relative to the rotation. Again, we still could be getting some contamination. And remember, we're a little farther away from the radar, so it is pointing a bit higher. But severe thunderstorm warning, Knox, Laurel, Whitley counties. It's basically central and northern Whitley, western parts of Knox County, that is, excuse me. Barberville, you're not in the polygon, and then the southern part of Laurel County, south of London. So if you're in extreme southern Laurel County, you're in this. This is, even though it's just a severe thunderstorm warning, you can almost see, again, a little bit of an appendage there, or a bit of a hook, and that's what these individual cells out ahead of the main line have been exhibiting and will continue to exhibit until we get this whole mess out of here. Because this area, again, we showed you the temperatures a little while ago. They were in the low to mid 80s. Dew points were in the mid to upper 60s, even 70. They've had sunshine this morning. That sun adds to the instability and allows these to develop pretty easily and intensify. I'll be interested to see if we get a hail out of this one too, especially with that darkening there of the reflectivity.
The warning says hail up to an inch size.
Okay, so you could see inch size hail out of that, maybe quarter or better. But we'll keep an eye on that one.
And I will say they turned this to a severe thunderstorm warning with the tornado warning we've been tracking there from Breath at Ethel.
So they're dropping the tornado warning. Is that, or are they letting it go?
No, they threw the severe thunderstorm warning on top of it.
Oh, so it's on top of it. So
yes.
The tornado warning continues for that part of the cell, but it's literally what we were talking about a couple of minutes ago. This leading edge right here north of Campton, that in and of itself could produce wind gusts over 60 miles per hour, maybe even 65 to 70. And that's why I mentioned Campton and Hazel Green and anywhere into Wolfe County, basically. But now it extends farther into the western part of Wolfe County, and it touches barely a part of Breathitt County, and looks like into just a small, maybe even catching Morgan County a little bit there. But really, I think the biggest concern, especially, I think the orientation of that line, Dylan, there, it's going to have a more southeasterly track. So
Absolutely.
It could be kind of a 1-2 punch. You got the appendage there on the southwest side of it, and then you've got the threat for straight line winds coming in from the northwest.
And I will say a lot of these severe thunderstorm warnings have the tag for considerable, so 70-mile-per-hour winds, which is, you know, greater than your typical severe thunderstorm warning.
So a couple things at play. Not your garden variety severe thunderstorm warnings, especially with these individual cells that, if you've been watching us for the last couple of hours, that was our bigger concern, even beyond the main squall line that is now moving into southern and eastern Kentucky, given the environment. And once these things got cranked up, not only can they produce considerable wind damage, but there is the possibility of a spin-up tornado within many of them. The Weather Service a lot of times will give the possible tornado wording tag within the warning. So you see severe thunderstorm warning and you think, oh, it's just straight line wind damage potential. Not today.
That latest update to that severe thunderstorm warning that we're looking at right now for Breathitt, Clay, Leslie, and Perry counties, it says it's now the highest hail, the largest hail that we've had. So 1 3/4 inches, so that is a golf ball size hail with this.
So you can see golf ball sized hail out of this that is in the northern part of Clay County there, extreme southern Owsley County, and then I mentioned it earlier, Buckhorn Lake State Park. This is going to come rolling into western Perry County. Hazard obviously well off to the east, but running down 28 Buckhorn, the community of Seoul there, it's kind of right along the Perry-Leslie County line there. Everything just kind of comes together. Krypton, Chavies, it'll all eventually come your way. But this cell you see is kind of out on its own. It curves back a little bit toward the northern part of Owsley County. But I think this leading edge here, Buckhorn Lake State Resort Park, it's about on top of you. So really take any of these severe thunderstorm warnings that we have. Usually, now we still have that ongoing tornado warning, but usually
they did cancel.
But they did cancel it. Usually we handle these with a crawl, but in this particular case, just keep in mind that all of these severe thunderstorm warnings, and if you even pull out a little farther, and if you want to take the auto cue. So we'll just kind of look at it from a bird's eye view. So essentially, you've got this cell coming into Wolfe County. You've got the one here east of Jackson. Looks like that's heading into Floyd County, out of Breathitt County. It's northwest of Hazard. Boonville, severe thunderstorm warning. London, Somerset, Corbin, all under severe thunderstorm warnings, and especially these three cells, the one here east of Jackson, the one that's coming up on Buckhorn State Resort Park, and then this one here that is just to the southwest of Corbin. Those are the three that I think if we get any spin-ups and any additional tornado warnings, they'll come from there. But that's not to say that along the main squall line here, it's jagged, it's bowing out, so you're going to have the potential of some straight line wind damage. Here in Lexington, we're good.
Yeah, you want to see, they just updated, the Storm Prediction Center just updated. I think we can give some all clear to a lot of areas.
Yeah, I was just going to say, they've got to be trimming some counties down.
And this is the latest outlook, and I can also set up the watch
so
if you would like as well.
Let's show you this. Here's the latest outlook. Obviously, the threat really diminishing here in the bluegrass, and you see the concentration with the level 3 in those areas about where, again, the squall line's back here, and then you got the individual cells down here. So once that's clear, which honestly, we're coming up on 4 o'clock here, this thing should be out of here by, I would think, 6:30, 7 o'clock, given the rate that it's going. Now, as far as the severe thunderstorm watch, which goes until 8 o'clock, I think we've got that in there as well. They're trimming counties back. Before, this extended as far north as Lexington and then back toward E-Town. I think next update, they're going to get rid of Fayette County and running down the I-64 corridor because we're done. The concentration is going to be down here across southeastern Kentucky. So let's pop back to the radar. So I guess we got to figure out what we want to do here, considering we're 6 minutes till the top of the hour. We're just going to stick with it here. And if we get no more tornado warnings, then of course we will go back to regular programming. Lee and Haley coming up at the top of the hour at 4 o'clock. And obviously we'll cut back in if needed. And then we'll have, you know, all the updates coming up at 5 o'clock. Let's keep our fingers crossed that we don't have to cut in. But I would highly suspect, just given the environment and given what we've got going on, that we'll have to stick with it. And again, we've basically blown out Good Afternoon Kentucky, as no pun intended we expected to, given what we've got going on. Notice the individual cell there east of Pikeville. Severe thunderstorm warning for that one. So
yeah, that was just issued with a tornado possible tag. So
yeah, so any of these here looks like there's Morgan County, Paintsville, Syersville, McGoffin County. So this one here that's coming out of Breathitt County into extreme southern McGoffin County and then over toward Prestonsburg, like all the little individual cells, they look like they're trying to get a little bit of a notch on the back edge. Here's
this
the one
especially
just pouring in Corbin right now, going down, I mean, coming out of Corbin around exit 29 there and then points southward north of Williamsburg. It's raining so hard, I'm sure people are pulling off of the interstate. Because
and the rotation on that is starting to strengthen up a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if they went with the tornado warning at some point. No word on it they are yet, but
yeah,
rotation right over Corbin really starting to tighten up.
Yeah, and the issue you get, again, trying to pick these, especially, you know, sometimes, yeah, you can have the more of a lighter green and a darker green, and that's shooting aloft in the storm. So it's not that signature that we showed you a little bit earlier in the afternoon. But when you've got so many other storms going on and you're shooting a good distance away, I mean, make no mistake about it, some very strong winds and a lot of heavy rain from Corbin running down I-75 north of Williamsburg. And here's the individual cell, and then you've got clusters of rain and thunder back to the west.
A couple more hail reports out of Estill County. We have both from emergency manager and from a train spotter. Near Vaughn's Mill in Powell County, we have nickel to quarter-size hail covering the ground. And then also in Estill County near northeast of Ingle, with penny-sized hail there. That's from the emergency manager.
And that was a cell that we've been tracking for the last probably hour and a half. It's the same one that moves through Richmond, where we had the lowering and the rotation aloft. And then we showed you that hail core that was coming out of Madison and northern Estill and into Powell County. And that's the thing, as we go through the remainder of the afternoon, of course, the reports are delayed, and a lot of the pictures that are posted on social media are delayed, so we'll have some of those for you. But that does not surprise me at all with that covering the ground. And this is what is left of that cell that is now just on the north side of Campton. Behind it, we should be in, it looks like, you know, the kind of the broken line is trying to catch up with a few of these individual cells. Now, as they come together, that could be a little bit problematic. But these areas that have not been worked over, especially Hindman, Hazard, points to the south down toward Williamsburg. Obviously, you're catching up on things in Corbin, but Manchester, you have yet to see anything. And all of these yellow polygons, these are all severe thunderstorm warnings that go until 4:15, 4:30 in some cases. So the concentration for severe weather the remainder of the afternoon and maybe part of the early evening, especially along the Kentucky-Virginia border from Pikeville running down through Whitesburg, Harlan, and Pineville and Middlesboro. That's going to be the focus here as the area of low pressure, which is moving through central Kentucky, the cold front, just out ahead of it. That's where we've gotten this squall line to go.
And a whole lot more counties taken out of the severe thunderstorm watch.
And I just mentioned that a couple of minutes ago when we showed you that. We figured that they would get the metro out of this. So your severe threat here in Lexington, really all the metro, the surrounding counties, Lexington and the metro, you're good. We're done with the severe weather threat for this afternoon and tonight. the low spinning eastward. The area of concentration, again, is going to be down to our south and east. So we're hitting the 4 o'clock hour here. We're going to send you back to regular programming with Lee and Haley. If we get any more tornado warnings, we will cut in and keep you posted. Otherwise, we'll see you coming up on ABC 36 starting at 5.
Give me that 5.
I'm Chief Meteorologist T.J. Shuck in the ABC 36 Storm Team Weather Center, along with meteorologist Dylan Goday and meteorologist Jordan Smith. We've been tracking severe weather across eastern Kentucky all afternoon long. Now, we've had a little bit of a lull. We've had a number of severe thunderstorm warnings with the possibility of a tornado wording, but we actually have a new tornado warning. Now, this goes for Magoffin, Floyd, and Johnson counties. It's south of Salyersville here in Magoffin County as it gets a little farther east toward Prestonsburg, and as we head toward the 5 o'clock hour, we will start our newscast. But wanted to bring this to you here since it is showing some signs of rotation. There's Salyersville, there's Royalton, so it is south of Salyersville. If we can put the velocity data on there, that will show us where the rotation is. So again, what we're looking at, and we explain this to you, we're looking at the velocity data, which shows you what the winds are doing relative to the radar site. You see the legend up here. The radar site is right there where that radome is in Jackson. So it's only shooting probably maybe 1,000 feet up, because remember, the radar's at the ground and the beam is aloft. And where you have the red and the pink, or actually the pink and the green side by side. So with the radar being there, anything in pink is going away from the radar. Anything in green is going toward the radar. You get side by side, and that is the signature for the possible tornado. So if you're anywhere here in especially southern parts of Magoffin County, and then it just extends over just a small sliver of Floyd and Johnson County, it's really into Magoffin County. If you're in the community of Royalton in Magoffin County, anywhere in southern Magoffin County, you need to take cover now, go to a basement, go
now we have an observed tornado with this.
Okay, so this is, I guess, a little bit more stronger wording than what we've dealt with earlier. A lot of it was radar confirmed,
yes.
But this is a confirmed observed tornado. Where'd that come from? Did they say?
Yeah, that is, it does not say. It just says at 4:49 p.m. a confirmed tornado was located over Hendricks near Salyersville, to the west of Salyersville, moving east at 25 miles per hour. We're getting a little bit on correlation coefficient. Let me throw that up real quick.
Yeah, if you can.
Doesn't look super great on there.
Yeah,
but
maybe a little bit. And what that is, the correlation coefficient, it shows anything that is not meteorological, meaning it's a debris ball signature, debris signature of anything that might be picked up, damaged, and lofted into the air. And usually you see a little bit of a blue spike here or there when you look at the CC here. But this is really the first time today that we've had a confirmation of one of these. And again, it's embedded in probably rain wrap. But zooming in a little bit closer here, this is south of Salyersville.
They did say there was a correlation coefficient drop, CC drop. That's
so
why
evidently, again, that correlation coefficient which shows anything that is not meteorological, meaning rain, etc., which shows up generally as a spot of debris. There was a drop in that according to the National Weather Service, and as a result, that's why they are putting this as an observed tornado. So if you're in the city of Royalton in southern Magoffin County, south of Salyersville, along Kentucky 7, you need to take cover now, go to a basement. If you don't have a basement, an interior room, lowest level of your home, preferably a closet or a bathroom. You want to get away from exterior windows and walls. Obviously, if you're in a mobile home, that's not the place that you want to be. Hopefully, you've got a predetermined safer place that you can go to. If we can just push into that just a little bit closer and maybe put a track on it. So you see Gypsy there, Royalton. It looks like it's going to be just north of Carver, so just cruising right across the southern part of Magoffin County.
I want to show, I'm going to put back on correlation coefficient because it looks on a couple of different views. This little ball, let me circle it here for you. This is where on some other data, it looks a little bit better where we could see that drop in the correlation coefficient taking place.
And again, what you're seeing here is what the radar does with a dual pole radar, so you get a cross section of things, is that it picks up on anything that's meteorological. If anything is put up into the air, into the atmosphere that is non-meteorological, meaning damage from trees or homes or whatever, it will give a signature, and that essentially lets us know that there is a tornado potentially on the ground and that it's doing damage because it's lofting that potential debris into the air, and that's the signature that we look for with this particular setting on the radar. Now, it has shifted, and you see it's a little more green, but we've got several sources that we can look at. So it looks like that it's tracking, again, between Royalton and Carver and eventually over toward Gypsy and Gapville. This is in the southern part of Magoffin County, south of Salyersville. Salyersville, you are not in this. Yes, you're getting some heavy rain and thunderstorms, but right now, the front and center here with this CC signature, it's basically a debris ball signature with the drop in that. You see that spike up and go a little bit green. Now, this turns blue usually, and again, it's fairly close to the radar. The radar is down in Jackson. I don't think it's any more than maybe 30 miles away as a crow flies, if that. So it's getting a pretty good look at what's happening here with the correlation coefficient, or again, kind of a debris tracker as we like to call it, and that shows us anything that may have been lofted. But you see the signature here with the velocity data, red and green, pretty tight there, close together. So this thing wrapped up and observed. So Royalton, be in your safe place right now. Carver, it looks like it's going to pass just to your north. Eventually, it's going to head over toward Gypsy. This goes until 5:15. Now, eventually, it's going to roll over just out of the viewing area into Floyd and Johnson counties. But you'll definitely want to keep an eye on this thing. Of course, we're going to start ABC 36 News beginning at 5. We got about 5 minutes until then. We will stick with it until then, have all your election coverage. Of course, you can go to our website, WTVQ.com, where we will stream our newscast. I'll have weather updates, obviously, throughout that hour and a half. We're almost out of this, ironically. We had a little bit of a lull for nearly an hour, a number of severe thunderstorm warnings all across southeastern Kentucky, but it's where Dylan has circled it. That is the signature on the correlation coefficient, or kind of the debris tracker as we like to call it, that shows where that debris signature would be, meaning the tornado's touched down, it's done a little bit of damage, maybe it's lofted some damaged trees or homes, barns, whatnot. That's another beauty with the advancement of Doppler radar with dual polarization. It gives you a nice cross-section of what's going on. So this thing's going to cross, again, State Route 7, which is essentially in between Royalton and Carver. If we can broaden out a little bit, Dylan, just so we can kind of get a bird's eye view to give folks some perspective. So there's Salyersville. It is south of you. You're in good shape. Not going to see that rotation there. It's eventually going to track eastward, and on the current track, it should run into western parts of Floyd County, eventually out toward Prestonsburg. And so this is getting pretty far out into eastern Kentucky. Now we've got other severe thunderstorm warnings, again, with possible tornado tags. Earlier, there was some rotation in Perry County right over Hazard. It was observed, some circulation with a possible tornado, and we had some larger hail. So even though the majority of these have been severe thunderstorm warnings, this is the first tornado warning we've had in about an hour, a little less than an hour here. And obviously with the upgrade to an observed tornado and the drop in that debris signature, we definitely wanted to come on and let you know what was going on. So anywhere in southern Magoffin County, in western parts of Floyd County, this is headed your way off to the east, southeast, probably roughly 35 to 40 miles per hour. Pretty distinct signature on the velocity, with winds going different directions relative to the radar site, which again is just down to the southwest here. And Dylan's putting kind of zooming into that potential debris signature there, and it's probably about right there. That looks to coincide with where it is. So This is the first one all day. Of course, we had the Richmond storm just north of Richmond in Madison County, where we showed you that wall cloud live on our Bluegrass Pacecar Skyview HD camera network. Of course, it did not reach the ground, but we did have some rotation just above the surface. So this goes until 5:15 here. And again, we've got that rotation in between Royalton and Carver, south of Salyersville, right out Kentucky 7. So it's really going to impact the southern part of Magoffin County and then heading over into Floyd County. So we're about to hit the top of the hour here. Again, I'll have an update right off the top of the show here. Again, if you're in the southern part of Magoffin County, be in your safe place now, because you're under a tornado warning that has essentially been confirmed, although that signature,
it's not looking as
not
impressive
looking
as it just
as
was.
intense as it was, which is a good thing. So maybe it's one of those quick spinners, does some damage just in a small area and then lifts back up. But that's what we're going to get for the next, say, half hour, 45 minutes until all this works out of eastern Kentucky. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll have ABC News, ABC 36 News, that is, starting at 5 here, coming up in just a minute.
The latest from the polls as voters cast their ballots. Plus, all eyes on the Republican race for governor as the candidates ramp up a last-minute push for votes.
I'm Chief Meteorologist T.G. Shuck. Of course, it's been a busy afternoon of severe weather here in central and now out into eastern Kentucky. That ongoing tornado warning for parts of Magoffin County until 5:15. Not looking as tight as far as the rotation. We're almost out of the woods with this active weather. Fairly pleasant heading into the midweek. I'll tell you about that in your 7-day forecast coming up.
You're watching ABC 36 on your side. News at 5.
Us on this primary election day. Let's begin with a check on that forecast as we head back over to our Chief Meteorologist, T.G. Shuck. We've been tracking a lot of severe weather out there this afternoon, unfortunately, on what happens to be Election Day, T.G.
Yeah, we talked a lot about that yesterday, Erica. As you know, we were concerned with the potential for severe weather here in central and especially southern and southeastern Kentucky, coinciding with Election Day. It can always be tricky with the May primary. We've had some rough days in the past, but you see what's happening. We got about an hour until the polls close, and all the active weather is basically along the Kentucky-Virginia border. This is going to be out of here, and we're going to be out of the woods within the next hour or so. Still severe thunderstorm warnings till 5:15, parts of Floyd, Knott, Letcher, and Pike County. And then we've got some stronger spells here, Harlan County until 5:30. And then here's the one that we've been watching, that tornado warning, which wrapped up pretty good. And the signature actually was showing the potential of a tornado on the ground, but it looks like it has since been allowed to expire potentially, but we still have a severe thunderstorm warning there. And again, there's the broad rotation. It's right around Royalton. It was back here southwest of Salyersville that we had that issue. So this is the scenario for that type of thing. We get these quick spin ups and then they go away. Everything started early this afternoon. We had the squall line move across southeast Kentucky, but it's these individual cells that cause problems. We showed you that that one using our Bluegrass Pace Care Skyview HD camera network. As it moved north of Richmond, you could see the well-defined wall cloud dropping. Now, it never touched down, but that's the kind of afternoon it has been. We're winding things down, all's quiet, and you see how the severe thunderstorm watch is being trimmed back. Once this activity in far eastern Kentucky clears shortly, we're going to be out of it. Again, that level 3 will go away as well. Our Bluegrass Pace Care Skyview HD camera network here in Lexington, our Hicks and Funson cam, 66 northwest winds indicating that boundary has gone through. Look at the difference in temperatures though. Down south, a couple of hours ago, it was in the low to mid 80s. Dew point's still up there, but overall, we're going to see some improvement as we roll through the next 36 hours. So almost out of this, much better tomorrow, sunshine and highs in the 70s. I'll tell you more about it in the 7-day coming up.